In 5 years' time, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing. And that is the most freeing thing in the world. There should be a freedom and an ease to say, if a story rises in your body and it feels like a song, then sing it. And if it feels like it needs to be on stage, then stage it, right? And if it feels like you need to write it, write that thing, but know that you can do all of them and that no one is able to box you. My name is Deborah D.E.E.P. Mouton, and I'm a multi-hyphenate artist here in Houston, Texas. The clacking of ABC barrettes with multicolored beads punctuate our laughter. We're taking turns. My stage name D.E.E.P started back when I was in the 8th grade, starting Poetry Slam. I vainly wanted something that the audience could chant because I want them to say I'm deep, right? I'm profound. I have all this wisdom, as much wisdom as an 8th grader can have. As I grew, I kept the name as kind of an alter ego and would perform under it, but maybe it's an acronym, right? Determined to excel in everything promised. The promise of why I'm here, right? The purpose of why I'm here, and live fully into that moment. I was raised as a pastor's kid. My earliest relationship with language and storytelling kind of started with my dad. He, for us, modeled so much of what a story can do, whether it's give peace at the end of the day, a laughter, or something more deep and profound to think through. The first time I knew I was a writer happened because of my English teacher in middle school. I had written this poem that was supposed to be in the voice of someone from Shakespeare, and I remember my teacher pulling me to the side and saying, "You're a writer." And I was like, "No, yeah, okay, I'm good at this." And she looked at me again and she said, "No, you're a writer, and that's different." And from there, I started publishing my work and really pushing me to chase what it was to be in charge of storytelling. By the time I got to college, I really was figuring out that I wanted to be a writer and that it was more than just a hobby that I journaled to get through the day. So I started to do an independent study and working with a professor at the University of Michigan to just take some of the poems I had already been reciting at open mics and turn it into an actual book. Poetry kind of became my first language where it was the thing that I was successful at, and it came to me quite easy. So I started really thinking about how do I go back to entering in a place space with my work, and that for me meant taking on new genres. So whether it's plays or operas or film, those things kind of served as a new place that I could investigate in part of my craft. I started in Poetry Slam around the same time as I started writing formally and kind of taking myself seriously as a writer. That feedback with the audience really started to shape how my work worked and also made me think about how I wanted it to move. Do I want the audience to laugh? Do I want them to cry? And then I knew I have an in. I have something that I can do that other people have a hard time doing, which is empathizing with people and giving them a voice in a way where it resonates. Having that kind of superpower for me meant that I had to use it well. And I've used it across my whole career to think about issues that are prevalent to communities that I work with, or just ones that I feel like should be amplified, and figure out how to make my work do that work as well. I'm a transplant to Houston, so I wasn't born here, but what has made it home for me has been really bridging gaps and finding connections in community. And everything from being Poet Laureate of the city to curating Poetry Slam for 12 years here to running multiple slam teams. This idea of giving people that space to say, share what you have going on with you. There was something about that that made me feel more responsible to Houston, more proud of Houston. I was coming out of the pandemic and figuring all of those things out when I was approached by Houston Grand Opera to write my first opera. I created Marion's Song, which was part spoken word, part opera. I had someone tell me, I've been in opera for 20 years and I've never been in an opera where another person like me is on stage at the same time as me. And there was a real big responsibility there to say, well, then if I have the option of writing something that puts multiple people on stage with common bonds and with familiarity and with storytelling, I want to do that work. I'm currently working on a project called the Call Me Mother Experience, which is actually centered on a poem I wrote after losing one of my children. It starts to look at Black maternal health. Harris County is now named the worst place for Black people to have a child in the nation. So if we're gonna start change, it has to be here. That work really is about creating art, but also creating opportunities to use that art and start meaningful dialogue. I want my legacy in Houston to be that absolutely anything is possible if you want to do it. The door should be open for you to do it. And more specifically, that your story matters.